A very good afternoon to all of you all. I'm extremely sorry for keeping you all in wait. There was a little bit of a technical glitch. I'm Rekha Khan, your host for the webinar, and we have with us today Mr. Piyush Bhatia, expert in Metaverse and Web 3.0 space, joining us for the webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about business in Metaverse. On joining, most of you all would know that you all are in mute. That's the protocol that we use always, but this time around, we're going to be trying something new. We also have pollings to this time. So we would appreciate active participation from all people who are live today. Thank you so much. At the end of the webinar, we will be holding a Q&A session where all the queries of the participants would be answered by Piyush. From the creator of Odin, MCX and IEX, here is yet another credible and exchange-neutral platform a user can rely on while walking towards the path of crypto and blockchain understanding. Starting from education to knowledge, all the latest news covered under one super app, 3.0 verse. CryptoWire has now been officially changed to 3.0 verse. From a novice to a professional trader, every market participant can have a slice of information readily available on the touch of their fingers. Let me first walk you through the 3.0 University, 3.0 TV, and 3.0 Wire services. We all know that crypto and blockchain ecosystem is emerging at an immense speed. And to keep a track of all the events, prices, and news look to be difficult. So what if we have an app like our buddy who works with us, things like us, and responds to what we expect? Yes, our own crypto super app 3.0 verse. Let me very briefly take you through the app. Let's start with the homepage of the app. It has three pillars: 3.0 University, 3.0 TV, and 3.0 Wire. Under the 3.0 Wire services, we have rolled out India's first global index of cryptos, IC15. It tracks the performance of the top 15 cryptocurrencies based on market capitalization. Crypto enthusiasts and crypto traders can take informed decisions based on IC15. Under the Wireword section, you can monitor the best exchange to buy and sell a particular cryptocurrency. In the center of the screen, we can also monitor the arbitrage opportunity available between the two exchanges for the same cryptocurrency. There are 400 plus cryptocurrencies listed in our platform, along with 70 plus exchanges worldwide. Coming to Crypto TV, it's an exclusive 24/7 mobile IPTV covering everything on crypto and blockchain ecosystem. It is currently available in 4 different languages: English, Hindi, Gujarati, and Marathi. Talking about university, being the world's first digital university to offer courses on crypto and blockchain, you can find the best courses available at a single click in the app. We also have a virtual trading game platform, which is a trading simulator. There are some live contests which will be going live from tomorrow. Participants can log in and participate in this live contest. With this, I would like to introduce our speaker for today, guest speaker for today, Mr. Piyush. He is a media and tech veteran with over 15 years of experience in content, marketing, and building brands. Till recent, Piyush worked with RFox, a Metaverse, crypto, and blockchain startup, where he was the chief marketing officer and overhauled their marketing department, which yielded significant growth. Piyush started his career in the media industry as a producer at CNN IBM, helped launch TV stations for Star and Viacom 18. He then moved into the space of editorial and content strategy with Eros Now and OTT platform, and later pivoted into marketing and growth. He has a vast experience in the blockchain space and deeply understands the Web3 industry concepts, communication, and decentralized nature of future. Welcome, Piyush. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me again, Rekha. Wonderful to be here. And just one small addition to the number of things that I seem to have done. I'm currently heading growth and marketing for another metaverse company called Walt Hill, which is building the world's first human-centric metaverse.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking out time and being a part of our session today. So unlike our regular sessions where Piyush would start off with his presentation or talk, we would want to start the session today with a poll, and we want it to be interactive, and hence we're introducing all these things and trying to get in innovations in our webinar. So I would like to put in the first poll for today's session, and I would appreciate if all the members participate in this polling. So the first poll that we are expecting people to share is this. So we would want to know, what is the business scope? Do you think Metaverse is the next business scope? We would appreciate people's polling on this. I like this. A lot of people are actually being interactive. That's great. Sharing the results. So can you see it, Piyush?
Yes.
So it says yes. So
thankfully, 92% of us think that Metaverse does have a lot of business scope. To answer the 1% who doesn't think so in the group, of course, Metaverse, at least in my humble opinion, has a lot of scope going forward. And I'll tell you why. See, the larger idea of the Metaverse is to bring physical and virtual worlds together, right? I believe this core thought is what is going to propel, define, direct the way businesses work in the Metaverse. Prima facie, the scope is very vast. And let me just give you some offhand examples from just the Web 3.0 blockchain NFT space, right? Sale of products, sale of virtual land is all going to happen only inside the Metaverse. Construction and rental of all the land spaces, right? ये जो इतनी ज़मीन दुनिया धड़ल्ले से खरीद रही है Metaverse के अंदर, उसके ऊपर कुछ बनाना भी पड़ेगा. Right? So what is going to get built on it? Everything from movie theaters to virtual concerts, to shopping malls, to homes and places to lounge, etc., to meetings, to work meetings, etc., are all going to be built inside the Metaverse. So all of this activity that is happening in our real world today, which is, the business, the travel of business, etc., all bulk of it is likely to move over the next 5 to 6 years inside the Metaverse. You'll be selling products, you'll be selling, renting the land spaces, immersive experiences and events. Now imagine this event that we're having today on a Zoom call, it's a virtual event, but what if it was an experiential event? Next year, wherein all of us are wearing our headsets and we are able to look at each other, talk to each other, not touch each other, but at least put our hand through each other if somebody really wants to be that disruptive in a meeting. But to be able to do these things and sit together while being physically at different locations is going to be extremely important. Purchasing digital art, NFTs, all the assets, all the collectibles, all of these things that you're currently doing on the internet in the Web3 space, you would be able to do inside the Metaverse. A lot of our education and learning today is happening in physical classrooms. A bulk of it has already moved online. Now, the next evolution of it is going to be experiential within the Metaverse, right? A lot of companies have already started building universities inside the Metaverse, and this trend is only going to continue with more investor funding, that's coming into the sector. So virtual classrooms that are going to, essentially fuel immersive learning experiences. Customer service is going to get enhanced. How many times do we call e-commerce companies saying my product has not been delivered, only to think that the other person is not able to understand what we're saying because there's a wall of distance between us. Imagine that wall being bridged by immersive customer service experiences. Nobody, I'm 100% sure the answer would be absolutely none of us wants to go to an office stuck in traffic. We all want to work remotely, right? Metaverse is absolutely going to enable us to be able to do that more productively. And, all of this plus branding, marketing experiences that all the brands can essentially build for their customers. So, these are just very few examples that I can think of. But in essence, everything that we're doing in our life today can easily have a Metaverse there that enhances productivity and experience, right? And I think that's what Metaverse is going to do. And hence the scope of business is so vast.
Absolutely. I agree to it. So Piyush, now going on to what is the significance of branding in a digital economy? What do you think is, the significance of branding in an economy digital?
Let me try to answer it this way. We are shifting from where we are today to an experience economy, right?
Absolutely.
From a delivery economy to an experience economy. So our thinking must also evolve to think of a brand as actions that contribute to a more fulfilling experience, right? In fact, when you look at all the new brands, Airbnb, Uber, Zomato, Dunzo, the brand and experience are one and the same, or at least that's how they are being built. The brand simply takes shape as the experience gains traction today, right? Lately, many thinkers postulate that the role of a brand is to define the organization's purpose in a sense, right? Which means that purpose-driven brands are uniquely capable of forging emotional connect with their customers, with companies, with employees, B2B, B2C customers. And this is especially true when we are building even like employer brand strategy, right? The biggest shift for brands in the digital economy is the desire by the customers today to forge real relationships with the brand in their lives. And I think whether it's B2B or it's B2C, customers are now increasingly demanding active dialogues with their brands through the purchases and even beyond. Each brand today has to have a personality that you have to stand for something. I remember we used to watch Big Boss, with Chhod Diya a couple of years ago. And one of the things they would keep saying is, you are not taking a stand, you are not taking a stand, and that's a problem. And your audience will also vote for people who are actually standing up for something within the house, right? While it may sound like a bad example, but think of it that every brand today needs to stand for something. You can't just sell products and not be relevant socially, or not be aligned to a social cause, right? So from this perspective, I think all brands will need to start having a personality of their own, and which is where branding comes into play. And it's extremely important for you to have a good tone of voice, to have an experience that you're giving to people, and to more or less be able to relate to the customer more than just the product that you're trying to solve, right? You also have to help or solve for or fit into an emotional need of your customer. Otherwise, what you tend to do is, otherwise the cheapest brand wins, right? You could buy the same perfume, from 5 different brands. You would tend to buy whoever is giving cheaper. But if you have an emotional connect with the audiences, and there's a reason he's coming to you for more than just the purchase of the product, then you're likely to succeed in the crowded field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree to it. Even I'm a marketing person, so I completely relate to what you're saying. So going on, I would want to do another polling before we move on to our next question, because it is interconnected. So let's see what we have in our next poll. And I would really appreciate if everybody participates in it, because it's going to be good fun. So our next question is there. Real life versus metaverse life. What would you do in metaverse world which you would not want to do in the real world? So these are the options that you have. Try extreme sports, pretend to be someone else, experience luxury products, create your dream house, meet your crush online, pretending to be someone else. Cool. That's interesting.
Everyone who's saying they want to pretend to be someone else, or they want to beat their crush pretending to be someone else, in of the list though, I'll personally block them in a couple of metaverses.
You bet. Oh, wow. So I think we've got our answers.
Yeah, dekho, aise mat karo, please. Don't pretend to be someone else. That's not what the intention of building this is.
So I think that's it. So the answer that we have is 55% of the people, rather it's now 50% want to create your dream
house. That's excellent, because that kind of puts in perspective or something that I said earlier, that one of the bigger things that you could potentially do, and that enables business scope inside the metaverse, is that all this land that is being sold has to be put to some use, right? Building houses, building shops wherein you could do e-commerce, where you could trade, building places where you could actually enable experiences is where is a massive opportunity, right? So let me take dream house as an example of also equated to a commercial establishment. Now imagine if I were to buy a piece of land in metaverse, in any of the metaverses, and build, theoretically, if I were to be able to build a movie theater inside, right? And if I were to be able to get rights to an upcoming movie and stream it there, diverting people from an actual theater to an experience within the headset, I mean, this has massive business implications. And I think more or less everybody's, on the same wavelength, that from a business perspective, there is so much that can be done inside the metaverse. And I think we are at an early stage today, wherein we are still at the stage of selling lands and coming up with ideas of things that can be done, right? Over a period of time, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are going to come from places such as ours, wherein people would have bought land and figured out what is it that I want to build, right? I could not build a movie theater in the real world, but can I create it in the virtual world? I was not able to create a casino or not able to create a gaming center in the real world, but can I create a game of my own that will play inside the metaverse that people will come and enjoy, engage with, experience, and spend money on, more or less, right? So I think that's extremely important. Experiencing luxury products is also a great example, right? Because brands will have to offer an experience going forward. I think one of the things that is going to be key is to be able to, we have try and buy today, wherein I think some of you would have noticed, आपने Zara से order किया, right? You order a packet from Zara, Zara delivers it to your house. What a lot of us do, and I'm shamelessly also part of that group, I'll try those things, and certain things that I don't like or don't fit me or I don't want, I would very merrily send them back. Today, what is starting to happen is Zara is saying, hey, listen, for every parcel you send back, you have to pay me 100 rupees, because I can't continue to keep sending you clothes for free for you to try and then pick most of them up. So what I think from an economic standpoint, what is going to happen is a lot of brands will be able to offer you trying services inside the metaverse, where you don't have to really go to the mall or go to the shop to be able to figure out whether you want a product or not, right? Think of the latest Nike shoes and Adidas and Reeboks, and being able to figure out whether you want to buy them before you actually make a trip in traffic, go to a mall, see whether you like it or not, and then come back, right? The time that you save, the energy that you save, the resources that you save of the world while not making that commute is extremely important. Of course, people who are pretending to be someone else, I think we'll answer that question when we're talking about ethics and rule of law inside the metaverse. But I think this is a two-way street, right? Web 3.0 and blockchain in general allow you to save data, your own data, right? You're in control. If you don't want to reveal yourself, you don't have to. So there are pros and cons of both. It allows user to remain anonymous. It doesn't allow, a lot of visibility on a lot of things. But at the same time, from a safety perspective, it will be extremely important for metaverses to think of how do we ensure that the rules that are followed in the real world are essentially also followed in the virtual world, right? So I think those are some very important questions that metaverse business owners will have to answer in due course.
Absolutely. Very true. So going on, we would want to know, how will the metaverse unfold and transform enterprises?
So enterprises are, this is an extremely important question, but there is a whole bunch of work that is being done at the B2B side today, right? And we all know that B2B tends to be more price conscious, simply because it's not an experience that's being provided to an actual user, but to the company that's serving those users, right? So from that perspective, there are many things that are going to be done, right? So think of employee training and upskilling with metaverse-based training simulations. Employees will be able to learn new skills faster, can easily be done inside the metaverse. Your customer service agents can essentially use avatars to provide real-time assistance, and so enhancing your customer service. Technology can also has the potential to improve communication and collaboration between employees, like I said, by virtual meetings, etc. A lot of sales and marketing that's currently happening in outside of the virtual world will try to move in, right? Because they're able to provide experiences, large scale immersive conferences, so that you don't have to travel across the country to meet clients. You can actually have a better conversation that you would have had on Zoom or on phone, in-person conversations, nearly in-person conversations in the virtual world, right? So I think a lot of that will move there. E-commerce, a whole bunch of try and buy services would, you can experience the product before actually buying it. Fashion, hospitality, these industries would have a lot of input from metaverse and experiences that are being built. So I think, from a B2B perspective, a whole lot of these things are likely to move, and, metaverse is going to start experimenting with.
Sure. A lot of time is also saved, I think, in all of these things. So yes, time is money.
And, time is money. And, like I said, what is happening today? I take a lot of flights domestically. Some of you do too. What tends to happen is if you were to go any Bombay Delhi flight at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, you will see the business class is always full. Why is that? Because these are executives in suits who are essentially going to from Bombay to Delhi or Delhi to Bombay only to meet a client, do their meetings, and come back at the end of the day. Now, this entire trip theoretically could easily be done. Could you do a lot of these things on Zoom? No, people prefer to do in-person meetings. Right. A lot of deals are closed in person, contracts are signed in person. But what virtual reality and what Metaverse essentially allows you is a bridge between these online meetings and real world meeting, right? It takes it one step further, and just short of meeting in person, you're technically sitting next to each other and having a conversation wearing your glasses. So, I do believe that bigger companies and tech companies are going to start adopting this, and therefore you will start seeing adoption in a B2B space much faster.
Sure, absolutely. What are the new dimensions that you feel will the metaverse open for sustainability?
Sustainability is a very important question, but it's a dual sword question. So let me try to answer it objectively instead of somebody who's working in metaverse and wants to push it. So, there's evidence that metaverse will increase sustainability by encouraging individuals to subscribe to actual visits with virtual meetings in 3D environments, and even forego real world purchases, in form of items and stuff that you would be buying in real world, but substitute that in metaverse and virtual apparel, right? So let me take these two examples. Initially, the meeting example I gave before, the amount of carbon emissions that you will save by reducing a lot of travel, by reducing petrol, gas, diesel emissions that you will save on is going to be massive. And what is going to happen is that a lot of things we buy that we don't really need or don't usually use, right? I think a lot of these purchases are going to go out of the window over a period of time, simply because you're going to start investing money in virtual assets, right? The more people start buying NFTs, the more people start buying virtual shoes and virtual t-shirts, and they're going to start trading, the need for physical goods is going to start going down, and that's going to save a lot of carbon emissions, a lot of water resources. Every t-shirt requires a humongous amount of water in the form of cotton to be able to make. Now imagine if we're able to cut down on all of that and save resources, it's going to be extremely important. Everybody can see the environmental effects of global warming. Every second day there's a flood somewhere. We can easily see what's happening in Bangalore in the last 3 days. Every street is flooded, right? I mean, at some level as humans, we'll have to take responsibility of all of this and try to move to a more sustainable future. And I think Metaverse kind of enables it. The only drawback, and honestly what I see, is increase in data centers, right? Mm-hmm. All of this virtual reality that is being built, it has to reside somewhere, right? Absolutely. Where does it reside? It resides in data centers across the world. So I think that's something that companies would need to pay extra efforts on, that we build these data centers that are more sustainable, that use, for example, solar electricity as much as they can. They cut down on carbon emissions in whichever way they can. And a lot of companies have proven that they're able to do it. Take Apple's campus, for example. The entire campus is actually completely sustainable, right? So if we can also build all of our data centers going forward the same way, we should be able to tackle this from early on. And we have an opportunity to do so because we're at the start of the technology, right? So we should be able to make efforts today to be more sustainable.
Sure, I agree to this. What about the implementations of the metaverse developed around the world? How will it implement?
So see, it's already started massively, and everybody's getting into it. There is no, there is absolutely nobody who's not trying to get into this, right? So let me give you an example. So Seoul metropolitan city, more and more countries are actually getting into this. So Seoul is building its own metropolitan city inside the inside the metaverse. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Barbados that's building the world's first embassy inside the metaverse, right? Dubai has already committed billions of dollars to be able to create the world's first metaverse-centric, ecostructure and framework. A lot of jobs, etc., are also going to start coming in. So I think going forward, what is going to happen is two ways, right? First and foremost, most governments, etc., are going to start adopting blockchain cryptocurrencies where 3.0 is standard, and start implementing once they start accepting blockchain as a principle and start seeing the light of how it benefits them. You will also see that a lot of governments and countries, etc., and companies essentially, they start bringing in their products, and that's going to lead to adoption. Right now, think of a metaverse opening country specific land parcels as opposed to just general land parcels. I think that's going to be the second stage of growth in a couple of years, and that's going to lead to wider adoption, more in-person adoption, more language specific, region specific adoption across the world.
Sure. So now we've heard what are the positives of metaverse and how is it going to be developed, how is it going to be sustained, what are the options and all that. Now we would also want to know what are the complexities and the challenges in the metaverse world.
I'll be honest, I think the biggest challenge today is diversification and adoption, right? Let me start with diversification. See, most of the metaverses which are currently available have gaming as the central element of the value proposition. Now, this is entirely understandable because for years, video game world and video game industry has already oriented its strategy towards online multiplayer. So, for its users, the leap into the metaverse is the next natural step, right? You're already playing multiplayer games, you can play it more experientially. So, of course, you want to do that. However, new proposals offering other types of content need to be deployed as well, right? We need to do more in video content, more in audio content inside the metaverse. And I think those are the things that need to be being built. These new types of content fields need to be deployed and consolidated inside the metaverse in order to expand the number of users who are also interested, quite frankly, in this technology. I'm convinced that we'll soon start to see horizontal proposals. Like, take, for example, Meta. Meta is likely to be, is bringing a very different kind of thing apart from just gaming, right? And more vertical proposals are also going to come in the world of entertainment, sports, workplace, and even in industrial world. So I think that's one of the bigger challenges that needs to be tackled. Just move away from simply gaming, but also try to create an ecosystem for the products inside the metaverse. Right? Education is one big thing. Healthcare is going to be another big thing. Tours and travel is going to be one big thing. But I think we need to faster the rate of adoption of these as well. Privacy and security also, I think, is going to be an extremely vital step, right? Because a lot of us have the ability to stay anonymous. How do we ensure that the rule of law is followed is going to be important, right? How do we ensure that we don't go and do misdeeds inside, that we are not really allowed to do it here simply because we're anonymous and we can get away with it, right? So I think that's another important question that has to be looked at. Legality of, a lot of what tends to happen today when you're running a business is that you follow laws based on the physical location of your business, right? So if I'm operating my business in India, I have to follow India's law of land. Now, what this metaverse technology technically allows you to run a global empire from day one, right? But essentially, what is needed is if you were to tomorrow, as an Indian company, if you were to open a shop in Malaysia, you would also have to register there. You would also have to have a checklist of all the steps that you need to follow to be compliant with their government. Now, I think this legality of how to operate global businesses is going to be something that needs to be tackled. And of course, the last thing, and perhaps the most importantly, is adoption of technology itself. Currently, the costs are a bit prohibitive for the entire world to come on it, right? I mean, today, Meta's headset costs around $500, $550, $600. That's not something that everybody can afford. So I think more people start investing in this technology and easier access to these headsets and virtual reality headsets is given, I think that's going to increase the problem or solve the problem of adoption essentially, which is something that's going to help a lot on the mass adoption scale.
Sure. Thank you. With this, I think most of us have understood what is metaverse and what's the business scope here, what is the sustainability. So now going on, I would like you all to poll once again and just understand what is it that you would like to do in the metaverse business. What business would you like to start in metaverse given a choice? So let's see what people have to say on this. So let's start polling. Can we have people polling in for this? Yeah. Wow. Most people are interested in event management. Cool. That's great. Wow. Farming. Fantastic. I think there are a few women in the group who also want to start a spa. Fantastic.
Farming is surprisingly popular in the metaverse. I did not know this. I would have assumed most people would have voted for either events, real estate, and casinos.
Absolutely. Even I thought the same thing. So we are ending the poll. Let's see. So yes, farming is taking 50%, and the next up is event organizing with 44%, and real estate is in 31%. Surprisingly, casino is only 19. Great. Cool. So that's
Casinos, I have not worked with one, but my assumption is that casinos make a lot of money. So I'm surprised that only 19% of the people want to, start their own casinos. But, from an event organization perspective, it makes perfect sense. All of this place, entertainment is one of the major sectors,
absolutely.
right? App economies, entertainment economies are one of the major sectors of growth in the 2.0 version of the internet. So it's but natural that the same can be moved to 3.0 rather easily. And a lot of effort is already being made. You see all of these music stars, etc., already coming into the metaverse to virtual concerts. So this is something which is an easy win, right? Real estate. I mean, this work is currently being done directly by the companies. There are no agents involved in the middle, but I guess why not? Casinos, I really like the idea of opening a casino. I hope one day I can open my own inside the metaverse. Farming, I'm personally not sure how you could actually farm inside the metaverse, but I think what people are trying to tell us here is that this technology is going to enable access to education that a lot of farmers probably need to do better, right? So I think from that perspective, it could be extreme. Metaverse could be an important tool of imparting that education, a more experiential education to people. And I think from that perspective, it comes there. Spa, I personally don't know how it's going to work, simply because, it really requires a physical touch, right? If my head is hurting, I need someone to massage my head. I can't do it virtually. But I guess, that elemental law would define that. And that's an extremely important way to pivot as well, Eka, that, the metaverse is not really going to replace our existing world. We're not building somewhere it's not Mars that we can sit in a rocket and go there like they're trying to do. You can't do that, right? This is a supplement to our world, a complement to our world, right? There are things that you're doing here that you might be able to do better, or you might be able to experience better inside the virtual reality instead of doing it just on the internet. Right. So it's extremely important to note that this is not going to be a dystopian world wherein the world is destroyed and everybody is living inside the metaverse like Ready Player Me, right? That's not what's going to happen. This is going to be an extension of the experience on the internet. So it has to be looked from that perspective.
Sure. Going on. So since you mentioned internet, what do you think is the future of internet?
Experiential. I keep using this word, but I can't emphasize enough, right? The future of the internet is experiential. Everything has to be experienced. I think these days of sitting in front of a computer, typing on the screen, reading an article, watching a video is going to change completely in a couple of years. Internet is going to be virtual. Internet is going to be more immersive. I think our digital presence will not be separate from the physical world, but ingrained in it, right? Think of information being displayed in the real world and not just on the screens in front of you, right? So while it may sound a little far-fetched today, but I believe in a couple of years, you'll see this as a reality. So I think the internet is going to move out from the screen in front of us and move into the space in front of us. And I think that's gonna be the biggest thing that's gonna happen to the internet in the next couple of years or the next decade.
Absolutely. So we can now start taking questions. In case there are any questions from the audience, we can start taking that. So in case there is any question that we have, we can start up with those questions. Is there anybody who's wanting to get any queries solved? Looks like we've covered major part of it. This is a topic.
No questions at all. Last time we got so many questions, right?
I know. I'm also shocked. I think we've covered, with the last experience, I think we've covered quite a bit, of things in detail on this topic. So maybe that's the reason why we don't have any questions. Well, no worries. Let me also check the live if we've got any feeds or any questions there. Okay, no, it doesn't seem to be. Cool, no issues, no worries. I think that's it. So thank you, Piyush. Thank you. It was a very interesting session. We would want it to be more interesting in the coming, sessions that we are going to have with you further. We would also like to thank all the audience for the time they've taken, in learning and making informed decisions before entering this market. Metaverse is like a vast thing. Every time you're incoming, you're learning something new and you all are going to be going. We also would, like all of you all to download the CryptoWire app if not done already. Thank you so much.